based on The Seven Champions by Richard Johnson. Okay. In the darkest depths of a thick forest lived Caleb, a wicked enchantress. Terrible were her deeds, and few had the courage to challenge this evil witch. Her wickedness was legendary, and she delighted in carrying off innocent newborn babies and putting them to death. And death was probably what she had in mind for the son of the Earl of Coventry. The Earl was the Lord High Steward of England, and his duties forced him to travel far from home. His wife had died during childbirth, so he had to leave. To leave his son in the care of servants. But Caleb, with spells and charms, managed to steal the child from his careless nurses. Yet the child was marked from the beginning for great deeds. On his right hand was a blood-red cross, and on his left leg a golden garter. These signs so affected Caleb that she could not kill the child, and so he grew, each day becoming more handsome and strong, until eventually he was the apple of her eye. Then she led him. Oh, no, sorry. Okay. When he was 14, he began to thirst for adventure, as all young boys do, but the wicked enchantress wanted to keep him in the forest. He wanted glory and could see the evil inside Caleb. So she attempted to bribe him. One day, she led him to a castle and showed him 6 brave knights who were imprisoned in the tower. She said, "Behold, these are the 6 champions, and you shall be the 7th. Your name will be St. George of England, but only if you stay with me." But he would not. Then she led him to a magnificent stable where 7 of the finest horses were kept. 6 of these, she said, belonged to the 6 champions. The 7th and the best, the swiftest and most powerful in the world, whose name is Bayard, will be yours, but only if you stay with me. But he would not. Then she took him to an armory and strapped on his chest a breastplate of purest steel and placed on his head a helmet inlaid with gold. Then, taking a mighty sword, she placed it in his hand and said, "This armor, which no weapon can pierce, and this sword called Aslan, which will destroy all it touches, is yours. Surely now you will stay with me." But he would not. Finally, she tried to bribe him with her own magic wand, giving him power over all the things in the enchanted forest. He other champions: Saint David of Wales, Saint Andrew of Scotland, Saint Patrick of Ireland, Saint Denis of France, Saint James of Spain, and Saint Anthony of Italy. For 9 months, the 7 champions exercised and trained in all the arts of war. So when spring returned, they were ready and set forth to seek for foreign adventure. 30 days and nights they rode until they came to a place with 7 paths. The 7 champions agreed to each take a separate path. They said farewell and with good spirit rode to their destiny. St. George on his charge Bayard journeyed until he reached the sea, where he boarded a ship bound for Egypt. He eventually arrived in a land that was deathly silent in the day, with the brooding darkness at night. It was here that St. George met a poor hermit. He asked the hermit for a bed so he could rest his tired limbs. The hermit replied, "You have come at a terrible time. Our land has been ravaged by a cruel dragon who demands the sacrifice of an innocent maiden every day. He has threatened to send a plague and scorch the earth so that no man or beast may live. For 24 years he has terrified our land, and tomorrow it is the beautiful Sabia, daughter of the king, who must die." He explained the king had promised to give his daughter in marriage and the crown of Egypt to any brave knight who would kill the dragon. "For crowns I care not," said St. George boldly, "but the beautiful maiden will not die. I will slay the monster." The next day he rose at dawn and buckled his armor, laced his helmet, and sharpened his sword. He mounted and trusted steed Bayard and rode into the valley of the dragon. On the way he met a procession of old women who were weeping and wailing. At the front was a beautiful damsel dressed in the finest Arabian silk. He knew it must be Sabia, the king's daughter. He dismounted and bowed before the lady, asking her to return to her father's palace because he was going to kill the dreaded dragon. The beautiful Sabia, thanking him with tears and smiles, returned to the palace, and St. George rode to meet the beast. Soon the brave knight was at the dragon's lair and shouted for him to come out and fight. The dragon let out a mighty roar, louder than thunder, and spat venom from its mouth. Its wings were burning flame its body covered in scales, harder than brass, with a great golden belly. Its size and appearance would have made any other men tremble, but St. George steeled himself and prepared to fight. Oh, sorry. So fierce was the dragon's first charge that St. George nearly fell to the ground. He recovered himself and thrust his spear. Oh, he recovered himself and thrust his spear into the dragon's belly, but the spear shuddered and split into pieces. The monster roared and whipped both St. George and Bayard with its tail. St. George was thrown from his horse, but by good fortune landed under a flowering orange tree. The fragrance from the tree has magical powers. No poisonous beast would dare come within 7 feet of its branches. So the violent, so the violent knight lay there to recover his senses, until with eager courage he rushed back into combat. Again, he struck the dragon in the belly with his mighty sword, Aslan. This time, the dragon was wounded, and purple venom spewed from its body and splattered St. George. The venom was so powerfully evil that his breastplate and helmet burst into 1,000 pieces. St. George might have killed, but again he sheltered under the branches of the orange tree. Here he prayed that God would help him in his fight against evil. Then, with a bold and courageous heart, he advanced and thrust his sword under the soft wing of the fiery dragon. He pierced its heart, and all the grass and flowers around him turned crimson with blood from the dying monster. The brave knight took a deep breath and with all his strength cut off the dragon's head and hung it on the shaft of his broken spear. Exhausted and wounded, he mounted his horse and proceeded to the palace of the king. The king's name was Ptolemy, yes. And when he saw the dragon was dead, he rejoiced. He ordered the city should be decorated to honor the hero, and a procession of noblemen and musicians escorted St. George to the palace. true to his word, agreed that Princess Sabia and St. George should be married. After many adventures, they returned to England, where they lived a peaceful and happy life. Okay, so just read St. George and the Dragon, and I wanted to include another book in this video. So I will be reading The Brave Little Tailor, and I think I said that the book was a fantasy book. I meant to say it was a fairy tale book for St. George. This is also a fairy tale book. Again, The Brave Little Tailor. Both are fairy tale books. Okay. On a beautiful summer morning, a little tailor sat working in front of his window. He was happily sewing when a farmer's wife walked down the street shouting, "Fresh fruit jam for sale, fresh fruit jam for sale." The little tailor was delighted by the sound of it. He stuck his head out the window and called out, "Come up here, my dear. I will buy some jam from you." The woman climbed the 3-step flights upstairs. She had to unpack all her baskets of fruit jam for him. He looked at everything, took a handful of each kind, smelled it, and finally said, "This is delicious jam. Weigh some for me." The woman took the order but left grumbling and snarling because the little tailor had ordered so little. "God bless this meal," said the little tailor. "This will give me courage and strength." He took a loaf of bread from the cupboard and spread it with jam. "This will taste so good," he said. "But first, I have to finish the jacket before I can enjoy my meal." He put the bread beside him and sewed so happily. Meanwhile, a swarm of flies had come to the delicious smell of the jam. They settled on the bread. "Oh no," said the little tailor. "Who invited you?" He chased the uninvited guests away, but the flies wouldn't budge and came back in greater numbers. Then the little tailor had enough. He took a big piece of cloth from his stock and beat them with it. In one strike, he killed no less than 7 flies. "What a hero you are," he said to himself. The little tailor quickly sewed the belt with the words 7 in one blow. He would show his bravery to the whole city and the whole world. With the belt on, he set out to explore the wide world. His workshop was now too small for someone so brave. The only things he took were a piece of old cheese and a bird. He quickly climbed up the mountain since he didn't weigh much. He didn't feel any footage on top of the mountain. A giant was sitting, enjoying the view. "Good morning, comrade," said the little tailor. "Not at all afraid. Are you enjoying the view of the world?" "I'm just on my way to explore the wide world. Do you want to come with me?" "Poor, foolish little man," said the giant. "That's why you think. But look here how brave I stone in his hand and squeeze it until the water dripped out. Do that, said the giant. That's easy, said the little tailor. He reached into his pocket for the cheese and squeezed it until the liquid came out. The giant couldn't believe what he saw. Then the giant took Then the giant took a stone and threw it high into the air. Now you, little one, do that, he said. Good throw, said the little tailor, but your stone fell back to earth. I will throw one so high it won't fall back down. He reached into his pocket, took out the bird, and threw it. The bird, happy with its freedom, flew higher and higher and never came back. Well, comrade, what do you think? Said the little tailor. The giant said, You can throw. Now let's see if you can carry something. He took the little tailor to a huge oak tree lying on the ground. If you are strong, help me carry the tree out of the forest. Gladly, said the little tailor. You take the trunk, I'll take the branches. The giant took the trunk on his shoulder and didn't see that the little tailor had sat on the branches. So the giant carried the tree along with the little tailor on it. Meanwhile, the little tailor was happily whistling a tune. When the giant couldn't go any further, he shouted, Watch out, I'm dropping the tree. The little tailor quickly jumped off, grabbed the tree as if he had been carrying it all along, and said, Are you even a man? You can't even carry a tree. Then they came across a cherry tree. The giant bent down the high branches with the juiciest fruit and told the little tailor to eat and hold the branches. But the little tailor wasn't strong enough. He flew up in the air. When the giant let go of the tree, when he landed on the ground, the giant said, See, you're not strong enough. That's what you think. But I jumped over the tree because there are hunters shooting. You should jump too. The giant tried but got stuck in the branches, and the little tailor had outsmarted him again. The giant said, If you're really that brave, come sleep in our cave. The little tailor went into the cave where many giants were eating a delicious sheep by the fire. The cave was considerably larger than his workshop. The little tailor thought he was allowed to sleep in a giant bed, but he found it too big, so he lay in a corner of the cave. The giant thought he was sleeping in the giant bed. At night, the giant came and split the bed in half. He thought he was finally rid of the little tailor, but the little tailor had outsmarted him again by lying in the corner of the room. When the giants returned from the forest the next day, they were frightened when they saw the little tailor again. They fled in a hurry because they were afraid. What was it? Oh my goodness. Okay, right here. Sorry. They fled in a hurry because they were afraid. He really had a special gift and would defeat them all at once. The little tailor continued to travel the world. When he was tired, he lay down to sleep in the grass of a palace garden. People who passed by saw his belt with 7 in one blow. Everyone said he must be a brave hero. They told the king. He offered the little tailor to work for him in the army. He also got his own house. That's exactly what I came for, said the little man. But the soldiers didn't want anything to do with him. They were afraid he would defeat them. 7 in one blow. They resigned from the king immediately. The king was sad Irish giants. He would also get 100 riders. The little tailor agreed. He said, I can handle those giants, and you'll see that I don't even need 100 riders. Okay. He rode into the forest with the horsemen. There, two giants were sleeping under a tree, snoring so loudly that the branches were shaking. The little tailor filled his pockets with stones and climbed the tree. He threw the stones from a branch onto the chest of one of the giants. At first, the giant didn't notice anything. Then he woke up and said to the other giant, Why are you hitting me? I'm not hitting you. You're dreaming, replied the other. The giants went back to sleep. The little tailor now threw a stone on the chest of the other giant. Why are you throwing at me? Grumbled the giant. I am not throwing, said the first one. They bickered for a while and went back to sleep. The tailor threw more stones. The giants had a huge fight and even pulled trees out of the ground. Luckily, not the tree in which the tailor was sitting. He drew a sword and gave the giant a few firm blows to their chest. He told the horseman that he had killed the giants. The horseman found the giants in the forest, bathed in blood amidst the uprooted trees. The little tailor went to the king to claim the promised prize, but the king regretted his promise and demanded another heroic deed. He had to catch a unicorn in the forest. No problem, said the tailor. 7 at one blow is my strength. He took an axe and a rope with him to the forest. The unicorn approached him, but the little tailor quickly jumped behind a tree. The unicorns ran at full speed into the tree. He got stuck with his horn, thus he was caught. The tailor put a rope around his neck, cut the horn off out of the tree, and brought it to the king. The king still regretted his promise and made a third demand. The little tailor had to catch a difficult wild boar with the hunters before the wedding. No problem, he said, and even went into the forest alone. When the wild boar saw the tailor, it came foaming at the mouth with its threatening tusks toward him. The little hero jumped into a small forest chapel and out through the window on the other side. The wild boar trotted in, but the tailor quickly closed the door. Now the furious boar was trapped. It was too stupid and too fat to jump out the window. The king was pretty sad, but had to keep his promise. He gave him half the kingdom and his daughter. If he had known that this little man was not a hero but a tailor, he would have been even sadder. The wedding was celebrated with great splendor. There was just no fun. Now the tailor was king. After a while, the queen heard her husband talking in his sleep at night. Boy, sew the jacket first, then the pants quickly, or you'll get a whack with the ruler. Now she knew who her husband really was. She complained to her father. The king said, Leave the bedroom door open tonight. My footman will put him in chains while he sleeps. He will be put on a ship and sail the wide world. One of the footmen, who liked the young king, had heard everything and informed the little tailor of the plan. Well, we'll put a stop to that, said the tailor. That evening he pretended to be asleep. His wife opened the door. He pretended to still be sleeping and shouted, Boy, first sew the coat, then the trousers, 7 at one blow. I killed 2 giants, caught a unicorn, and tapped a wild boar. Do you think I'm afraid of those Likes at the door? When the Likes heard him say this, they were terrified and fled, never to return. And so the little tailor remained king for the rest of his life.